It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Sports don't stop, and neither do we. Welcome to 365 Sports, your home for real conversations, original shows, and coverage that lives where sports actually happen. Join David Smoke, Craig Smoke, and myself, Paul Catalina, for in-depth interviews and local stories to the moments national media misses. 365 Sports brings you the voices, debates, and perspectives fans care about every single day. Subscribe now on YouTube, search 365 Sports, and never miss a moment because sports aren't seasonal. They're 365.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. That's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
Just use AMP-Pace.
AMP-Pace.
With Ease US, make studio-quality voiceovers for your videos online in over 149 languages and dialects, featuring 468 natural AI voices. Customize the volume, mood, and pauses to perfectly match your content. Plus, capture high-quality videos with no watermark. Record your screen, webcam, and voice, and save them instantly to your computer. Never been easier to create professional-grade videos and voiceovers. Try it today at easeus.com. That's EASEUS.com. Ease US. Since our founding, we've been revolutionizing hair removal with cutting-edge technology and a commitment to empowerment. The U-Like Air 3, launched in 2023, ushers in a new era of sapphire ice cooling technology, offering nearly painless hair reduction in just 3 weeks. Experience the future of hair removal today at ulike.com, because at Ulike, beauty is about looking and feeling good. That's ULIKE.com. Ulike.
Hey, it's Matt Mosley of The Matt Mosley Show. We want you to watch our show every day, 1 to 3 on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. And you get to see big name guests like Gary Patterson, Art Briles, Scott Drew, Doug McNamee, major Cowboys insiders, ESPN legends like Sal Palantonio. When news breaks on Cowboys or Baylor or NFL, we want you to look here first. 1 to 3 weekdays, it's the Matt Mosley Show.
Pete Sousa Show. What's happening? How we doing? It is Friday. So happy that everybody's with us today. Cam Stewart's back in the home office in Boston, Massachusetts, coming off a kick-ass Wicked Boston live show, just a block from the Boston Garden. We're for real here at the Rogue Media Network. So real that we're welcoming Duke's David Shumate, the voice of the Blue Devils. And I'm going to blow his mind with a little 6 degrees of Sousa and Shumate that I didn't even realize till this morning. But the guy gave me a huge break in this industry and is possibly one of the reasons you're sitting here stuck with me right now. More on that when we welcome Mr. Shumate into the cut. We're presented by Slovaceks. Crawford Austin Properties, we thank you so much. Right? Socorro Family Ford. Let's go. Also, you got to thank Lake Waco Golf Club. We'll be doing a live read for them later today, Cam. Hopefully we won't forget. Correct? All right. And Daniel Stark Injury Lawyers, of course. They sent me some amazing steak, like Wagyu steak. Danny Daniel, who is kind of the head of the snake there, is a self-made success. And he grew up living off the land and doing a great job with that. So I love Danny. And I'm stoked to talk to him. I'm stoked to promote Daniel Stark Injury Lawyers anytime because they do a hell of a job. They're helping me through something right now. And it is a total nightmare. The accident I got in December, the 18-wheeler that hit, and I'll say us because my dog was in the car, Sadie and I. Of course, the guy's like, no insurance. And his company's like, no, we don't have insurance, which is why, honestly, you get Daniel Stark. Like, I would be totally effed without Daniel Stark right now. So keep that in mind, dude. Like, that it's a big deal. These attorneys, they're not ambulance chasers. They're not like jerks. They're looking to make a quick buck. They're actually guys who, of course, in the overall exchange of business, they're looking to further their business. But I swear, first and foremost is us, the clients, right? Like, they know we're getting screwed by these big insurance companies. And they can really, really help you not get screwed. So thank you to Daniel Stark Injury Lawyers. I don't want to start with an impassioned deal. We've got David Shumate coming up, and that'll be in about 5-6 minutes. I just want to start off something else Duke related. Do you guys remember, there were games back in, I don't know, I'm looking at it right now, Duke and Florida State when I was a kid on the football field. Let's say 1996. You know what I mean? Duke and Florida State. The Dukies would go to Tallahassee and they would believe in themselves. I was at the time, I'm trying to think let's do Wake Forest. That's even better because I was recruited by Wake Forest and Jim Caldwell. And, the Jim Caldwell teams, they would go into Florida State and they would lose 72-6, right? And they had no chance on the road. And that is what I felt like this morning. Christy woke up before me and, she's like, I got to get up. I got stuff to do. I slept for another hour. Okay. So I come downstairs and they call me Positive Pete for a reason. I come downstairs. I've slept great. I'm like, peekaboo, messing around. You know what I mean? Morning, anybody there? Crap like that. And she's already in the middle of doing a gazillion things. Right. And so she's like, well, dog pissed on the carpet and the cat, the litter was turned upside down. So it was almost as though my team mascot had gotten away and already kind of ruined our chances. And then, so I'm still in a really good mood. I start unloading the dishwasher. I start talking to her about what's going on with me. I even can tell she's in a bad mood. So I say, Echo, put on Donna Summer songs, right? Who's putting on Donna Summers in the morning? I kind of move the vibe a little bit. I get a laugh out of her, but then she starts to talk about the day she's got coming up for work. And when the woman you love, your partner, or the partner you love is just on a heater, she was on a heater. So then she goes into work and all the people that are working for her that aren't doing the things they need to do, and how her first meeting is at 8:30. And I'm saying it's 8:27. I'm like, those 3 minutes cannot, she needs to get in that office and start her day. And then she finally says to me, I'm sorry for unloading all this on you. And she moseys on into her office. And I felt like Wake Forest going into halftime after showing up at Florida State. It was 46-3. I came out of the tunnel with such enthusiasm and excitement and a zest for life. And I am telling you, I walked up the stairs broken. And now here we are, the Pete Sousa Show. And guess what? We're ready to welcome in my man. He's in the bullpen. I'm not making David Shumate wait at all because I'm ready to kind of blow his mind a little bit. He may remember, he may not. But we're going to welcome right now to the show the voice of the Blue Devils, David Shumate. David, what's happening, dude?
Good morning, man. How are you?
Dude, so a little blast from the past, okay? One of the main reasons I do play-by-play for NBC, ESPN, and I do this show, and I learned a ton from guys like you because when I was doing play-by-play for the Springfield Armor in 2013, the G League affiliate of the Nets, their team moved to Michigan, and I was screwed. I was like, man, I was loving it. I was having success there. And a buddy of mine was like, hey, like, why don't you email David Shumate? He's at IMG, and he's over everybody in one way or another. He could, if you're good enough and he likes you, he might put you on a halftime, because I had some opportunities with the Hornets. Lo and behold, I get in touch with Shumate. He's like, hey, your stuff sounds good enough. You pass me off to somebody else, and I get the St. John's halftime job. That leads into more work with the Hornets. Then I end up doing news for a while, and then I finally get the play-by-play break, and here we are. And here you are. I mean, you're at the apex, and because of you, I'm climbing the mountain, brother. Thanks so much.
No, that's old school, back to the days of Winston-Salem and working for the rights holders and stuff like that. No, but I'm glad it worked out. I imagine we were lucky to have you when you were with St. John's with everything that you're doing now. But no, it's been a wild journey, obviously, with this year's team at Duke, but through the years, obviously, with my background with Learfield and IMG and ISP and all the different names that we've worked for over the course of the years.
Yeah, man, and it's just so fun to see how well you're doing and, how well Duke is doing. I'm a kid from the Northeast. I grew up rooting for Quinn Snyder and Christian Laettner and Coach K, and I work a lot with Chris Spatola. So I got like, I've always kind of had a place in my heart for Duke. And, this year, it feels like something special is going on, David. And, watching the Michigan game, obviously I didn't see the Notre Dame game, but the score said enough for me to understand exactly what had gone down and where this team is right now. When you look back at last year's team, which was a complete juggernaut, is there a difference you can point out and say, oh, this year we are a little different, a little more grizzled, whether it's Shire or players? What have you noticed?
Yeah, I mean, last year, I think you'd be hard-pressed in the history of college basketball, even here at Duke, to see a class with so many freshmen, maybe the Zion Williamson year with Cam Reddish and R.J. Barrett and Trey Jones and those guys, to have just the unique talent that Duke had with Cooper Flagg and Con Knipple and Kaman Maluach, and you bring in obviously Proctor and Sion James with their experience, what that group had. But when you look at this group, I'm sure we're going to talk about Cameron Boozer and what a special and unique talent that he is. But some of it is the experience. And you mentioned Grizzle. I think it's a good way to put it. Some guys who have been through the wars, and not a name that gets talked about a lot with this team. But when you have Caleb Foster starting at the point, a guy who didn't get to play in the in-state tournament his freshman year because of injuries, was a part of it last year. And then Sion James takes over the starting job midway through the season. He works through that, doesn't hang his head, just keeps getting back to work. And now he's in a position where he's giving huge minutes for this team, particularly away from home. And then you have Gungman a second season. You have an older guy like Malik Brown you can bring off the bench. I think some of that character, some of those battle scars are a little bit what helps this team and makes them, to me, one of the more imposing physical teams you're going to see in the country.
We got to talk about Shire. I know obviously Cam Boozer's on the list of topics, of course, like you mentioned, but he's coaching his ass off. I mean, there's a lot involved here. You talk about coaching your way out of a shadow. And, there's probably way more positives than bad, but people look at that and it's a tough thing to do. History speaks for itself. And then you see how he seems to get better every year. What have you noticed about him as a coach where he has grown? Because look, dude, we're all growing. I always go back. I was thinking yesterday about trying to grow in my play-by-play career. And, maybe I should start to go back because I was spotting and doing stats for a while. Like maybe I should just over the summer, get with one of my big time baseball buddies and go hang out for a series, because, that's what NFL coaches do. They go around to different coaches in spring, and college coaches watch NFL training camp. But I guess what I'm trying to get at is even John Shire can improve. How has he improved over the course of the time that you have had a front row seat to this?
I think the best way to put it, and maybe it's tried, is to say he's learned how to become the best version of John Shire. And I think that's a hard thing to do when you're stepping into a seat that was held by Mike Krzyzewski for so long. And you want to emulate, obviously, he's one of his biggest mentors, but he knew coming in that he'd have to make it his own. But I think that takes some time to get there, right? And he's made some decisions that, in retrospect, if they don't go the right way, could get picked apart. I mean, going outside the family, so to speak, and bringing in Jay Lucas as one of his top assistants off the top, if that doesn't work out, or people criticizing of not bringing in, Duke folks, bringing in Rachel Baker as a general manager right off the jump. You look back now, that looks like old hat, but at the time it was revolutionary to bring a general manager into your basketball program. And then also the ability to look and say, hey, maybe this worked, but not to the degree I want to. You think about, a couple years ago, Duke made a nice run to the Elite Eight, but he knew that wasn't good enough and needed to change some things and how they went about things in terms of his roster construction. You look at last year, you look at this year. Yes, they have size, but it's really about positional length. And he kind of developed that from some conversations he had with Brad Stevens over the years. Said he told him kind of bluntly, like, there are a lot of things you can teach, but you can't teach length. And that to me shows his ability to adjust on the fly, to rethink things, even when they're going well. I mean, go to the Elite. A lot of teams would love to do that just once in their program's history, but he knew that wasn't enough and went ahead and made some changes. And here they are, having gone to the Final Four with a chance to do so again this season. I mean, even this year, if you look at last year's team defensively, because their length, athleticism, one of the things they did a lot was switch 1 through 5. And they did that some this year and still do to a certain extent, but not nearly as much in the second half of the season, using, Gumba kind of as rim protection and doing things differently. So to me, the versatility, obviously the X's and O's knowledge is off the chart, but going back to what I said at the top, just understanding that this is about building something that works for him, to me, is one of his greatest attributes and one of the reasons he's had so much success.
I love the role that you have, because you're beyond qualified to break down anything that goes on inside this team, because you're just around it unlike anyone else. Even in the NBA, they have the radio and the TV guy that both travel. Well, in college, it's just the radio. It's just you. It's just the voice of the Blue Devils. What was the biggest challenge that you saw this year that popped up along the way that you guys or Duke was able to overcome? If there was a specific moment or something that, now with perspective and looking back, you could say, man, that was a door that kind of closed on us, but it made us better in the long run. I mean, we can do that a lot with life, but I think in sports, it's more fun to do it sometimes.
To me, it's a little bit of a blessing and a curse when I look at it. And some things, like, I'm glad you said it the way you did, you can only see in retrospect, right? I think because of what last year's team was and how talented they were with all 5 starters being drafted, that inherently is going to cast a shadow, even at a place like Duke. And I do think to some extent what that team was, what that team is currently doing in the NBA with the Rookie of the Year race, cast a shadow on this year's group. And to some respects, maybe that is, when I say the blessing part, what I mean is, hard to say this being at Duke, but kind of flew under the radar, I thought, in the first half of the season, just in terms of what the national landscape was looking like. A lot of people maybe talking about Boozer as a contender for Player of the Year, but weren't talking about this team as a whole, and maybe the expectations weren't there nationally like there were a year ago. So allowed this team to kind of form a little bit in the background and get their feet underneath them, but also the curse, right? The hardest thing is to be compared to something you can't compete against. And I do think this team, right, wrong, and different, because it's fresh, because it's Duke, gets compared to last year's team a lot. And people are trying to make those comparisons. And I don't think that's terribly fair, because how do you answer that question when obviously everyone is kind of pulling in the same direction? I mean, Khan and Sion were courtside for the game against Michigan the other night. So they've had to deal with that a little bit of the comparison a year ago. But not new to Duke guys. You get compared to the history of this program all the time. But I do think what last year's team did has certainly impacted this year's team, both in good ways and some ways that are a little bit tricky. And I do think they've learned how to handle that. They've learned how to handle the spotlight, and they've learned how to handle doing it their own way. And that kind of goes back to what I was talking about with the head coach as well.
Yeah, when you talk about Cam Boozer, one of those guys who's clearly figured out how to do it his own way. For you, courtside, what has jumped out to you about his skill set that you just find terribly unique and you don't see on many nights covering college basketball?
To me, and I know it gets classified a little bit by freshmen, but I think really this is any player, whether it be in college or the NBA, the consistency. And there's a stat that to me speaks to this as much as anything. I think it's like 14 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists. It doesn't seem like crazy stat line, but he's the only player since the turn of the century that's been able to do that in 20-plus consecutive games, and he's done that in every game this season. The consistency of his production is off the charts, and what he's doing, obviously leading the team in scoring and rebounding and assists and steals and on down the line. But it's not like he's had a game that pops and then a game where he has 5 points and 4 rebounds and then a 30-point effort. He does it every single night. knowing that teams are scouting to take him out of the game, whether it be double teams, triple teams, what have you. The consistency of his production, I think that really stems from his demeanor. You mentioned being courtside. When you watch him, not that he doesn't have personality, he smiles, he jokes, he has a good time, but he's not someone who's out there complaining with officials all the time or getting frustrated with the physicality. He just does his work and goes about it. And I do think when you look at this team overall, they take on the personality of their leader. I mean, last year's team definitely took on the personality of Cooper Flagg, and this year's team has taken on the personality of Cameron Boozer, where they kind of block all that out and just go about their business on a day in and day out basis and don't ride the highs and the lows. And I think that's one of the things that served them really well this year.
And look, and I had an opportunity to call a game Kansas-Oklahoma State last week, and you can tell that Kansas is doing well, but there is a kind of back and forth, like, who are we? And you don't see that with Duke at all. And it feels like they're definitely working the kinks out. But when you watch Duke, there are no kinks as far as that area of the success. How about Duke if they were able to go to the distance? Who are we talking about that stepped up and had a huge impact? In your opinion, David, who needs to have a big role coming down the stretch that is, I guess you would call an X factor come March?
Yeah, and I go back to the oldest guy on the team in terms of this time here at Duke, and I go to Caleb Foster. He really made a push last year in the in-state tournament. A lot of people don't think about that with the minutes he played, with what he can give them from a defensive standpoint with his speed and athleticism, but his ability to beat people off the bounce and get to the rim obviously can create so many problems and then create shooting lanes for Isaiah Evans and take a little bit of the pressure off of Cameron Boozer. Look, Duke is going to have to get the production inside. That's how they're built. So we can talk about Gungbo, we can talk about Brown, but I do think Caleb Foster could be that guy in the tournament when guard play tends to come to the forefront that could really get them over the top. And he's shown signs of that this year in terms of what he can do. He set career highs in points, rebounds, and assists, all of them away from home. And last time I checked, the in-state tournament is now played at Cameron Indoor Stadium. He's been good there as well. But I think a lot of times you see older guys in those spots on the road or neutral sites, like Arkansas was where he set his assist high, and that was in a neutral site game. In Chicago. At Louisville is where he set his scoring high. He has a sense for what his team needs and when it's time for him to step to the forefront. And I do think that's a piece that's going to be really important once you get into the big dance.
When you talk about the big dance, and in March last year, what do you think Coach Shire learned X's and O's wise from the appearance in the Final Four? Because that's what it looks like. I mean, first of all, most coaches at his age at this point in time aren't experiencing this much success, as many big games. I mean, Coach K certainly didn't, that wasn't part of his maturation. Somebody that's been thrust right into the spotlight in all these big games, partially due to his own coaching abilities. What did he learn on a stage like that, X's and O's wise?
Yeah, I think he's learned a lot of, he joked over the summer that he learned about, working on getting it in against a press. Obviously, you have to give Houston some credit on that.
A lot of credit.
Final Four matchup.
Yeah.
So, there's a piece of different stuff you learn. And I'll say this, I do think late game execution is something they work on tirelessly. I as you said, I'm at practice, more often than anybody else. And they're always working on oddball end of game scenarios, inbounding on the sideline, inbounding full court, 3 seconds on the clock, 2 seconds on the clock. You're down one, you're up one. And they've probably done hundreds of those over the course of the season. I do think that helps you not just in memorizing a set or what you want to do, but also so that moment doesn't surprise you if it pops itself up. So I think that's one of the things he's really good about, preparing his team to not be surprised in the moment, whether it be a game circumstance, whether it be, the opposition that you're facing. And then the other word that he uses a lot, particularly in conversations I have with him, because you can get caught up in the success, right? They're 26-2. They're leading the ACC at 14-1. They went on Saturday against Virginia. They'll clinch a piece of the regular season and the 1 seed in the ACC tournament. It can be intoxicating when you have that kind of success. And he talks a lot about humility. And I do think that's how he's able to sustain success, is the respect for the opponent and the work that goes into having that sort of success, that you don't think it's just going to happen because you showed up and walked into the gym. I could go on a million different things about X's and O's and his propensity to draw things up, ATOs after timeouts, those sorts of plays. That key one against Michigan that got the Evans dunk that really, set them on their way to beating Michigan at the under 4 timeout. He's one of the best in the country drawing that sort of stuff up. But I do think it's his understanding that you have to prepare the team weeks in advance of these scenarios that could pop up so they don't surprise you.
I want to jump in the time machine with you real quick because you touched on that game in DC. What surprised you about that atmosphere and that game and just the pageantry of it? Watching from a distance, it was just felt seismic. Being there, can you describe what jumped out at you that you really weren't expecting?
I mean, you kind of had a feel going in. Everyone knew the sellout crowd. Everyone knew the ticket prices were kind of off the charts. And to some respects, when you see the high ticket prices, it makes you a little bit nervous because sometimes that can be corporate entities or stuff that get in there, and it can be a crowd that's there to watch the game, not necessarily be rowdy and stuff. I mean, we see that in Super Bowls and different stuff. But to me, the back and forth, it reminded me of Coach K's last season. Duke played Gonzaga out in Las Vegas, and it was pretty close to a 50-50 split, maybe 60-40, and just the back and forth and how things went over the course of the game. And then the other thing that surprised me was actually earlier in the day. I was candidly a little bit shocked that College Game Day chose to go to this game because it was at a neutral site in Washington, D.C., and what was the turnout going to be like. But when they opened it up kind of like a Final Four, what you'd see in the Sweet 16, and allow fans to come to the open practices, I imagine that's going to be something that you're going to see replicated over and over again, because the turnout just to come and see the guys shoot around a little bit, both for Michigan and for Duke, to me was really cool. And, you got to give John Shire and Dusty May credit. Talk about preparing your team. Those are things you're not used to throughout the course of the season, of having fans at a practice to a large degree. And that can be a little bit different when you get in the in-state tournament, of what that atmosphere is like as you go throughout the course of the tournament. So now those teams have had that experience. I think the whole thing was just really smart and one of the better atmospheres you're going to see all season. I would argue that it's as good as you're going to see at any Elite Eight across the country.
How about yourself? You take this huge job over in 2017. What for you has that been like? I would imagine there's just so much that comes with a position like being the voice of the Duke Blue Devils. How did you handle that, and how did you navigate it initially into right now?
Yeah, and not the direct great comparison, but the guy who did it for me, Bob Harris, legendary, was here for over 4 decades. We lost him a couple of years ago. But, had conversations with him when I first got started and talked about, he kind of brought up, don't try to be me, try to be you. And I imagine Coach K had similar conversations with John Shire. And I do think that is like,
no, it's a great comparison, dude. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Very simple advice, but something that can be hard to do when you're stepping into either one of these roles. You obviously want to have continuity for the fans and what they're used to hearing, in my respect. But also you've got to be you. And some of that is developed over the course of time. And I do think patience is a piece of that, and you learn different things. But to me, the core of it is remembering a couple of different things. One, people want to hear the stories of the guys. They want to know what they're dealing with in their history, but also over the course of the season, what practices look like. And also, some people may like this, some people may not, but get excited. It's sports. Have fun. I mean, people are listening to this as a release from their everyday life. So don't take it too seriously. Have fun with it. And that's obviously what I try to do and covering these games. And obviously the team helps you have a little bit of fun with the way they play.
Dude, I was talking to a young play-by-play guy. I know you talk to a ton of them, but I just told him what I have been told. I was like, let me just tell you this one thing. Like, if you're holding back at all, stop. Like, if you're holding back you, don't be somebody else, but don't hold back who you are in the big moments. Like, don't be too cool for school, right?
I totally agree. And like, that's what the fans don't, in my opinion, don't really care if you scream. They don't really care what your inflection points are. All the little broadcast stuff that, broadcast sorts like us could get into and break down a tape or things like that. But they can sniff out if it's not authentic, if it's not you, and if you haven't done your prep. So those are exactly the things I key in on guys, of like, make sure you're prepared and then just go out there and have fun and let the moment be the star, and don't make it about you, but have fun with it. It's sports. And like you said, just be yourself and you'll be fine.
Yeah. If you're super qualified, or if you're qualified and you're super prepared, there's really, not a whole lot can go wrong. I truly believe that. All right, do me one favor. Cam Stewart, come on up. I got my man Cam, who produces the show. This guy legitimately is named after. Go ahead, Cam. Waste our time.
What? I put it out there already this morning. Yeah, I'm named after Cameron Indoor Stadium. I was indoctrinated as a young child and was absolutely fanatical. David, I sent a note to Pete during the interviews, which I try not to do because he's locked in on these interviews.
I don't care.
I think this is interesting with how good this Duke team is and where the Final Four is. David, I know you see the banners a lot.
Yeah.
Duke has 5 national championships, and if the Final Four is not played in something that ends in Polis, they don't have a chance. 2 in Minneapolis, 3 in Indianapolis. It's back in Indy this year. Is that the best thing going for Duke right now?
For sure. And obviously we know where John Shire won his title. So
exactly. I remember it well.
The symmetry is there. Now, I know there's a regional in Houston, too. I don't think Duke is headed there, too, if we really want to go down the rabbit hole.
2015.
But no, I do think there's definitely amongst the Duke fan base people thinking things are lining up for them to go a certain way. But as you know, for someone who's followed this program, if I brought that up to the head coach, that would not go very well for me because there are a few steps along the way before the team gets to Indy.
Yeah, Pete, 2010, Duke beat Baylor in the Elite Eight,
of course, I remember.
Where I actually went to school. So I was that was the earliest known time of me not rooting for Baylor. I didn't tell the people that when I went to college, but yeah, Pete, it's lining up. Polis. I'm just saying.
Anything else for David?
No, you covered most of it.
Right,
good job. I love this coverage of this team, man. This team, and I had this thought the other day. Actually, I'll say this, David. I had this thought the other day, and this is going to sound crazy, thinking back to like the great Duke teams, but I don't know how sustainable like a true dynasty is in college basketball in the next couple of years. The NIL, obviously, we just saw UConn do back-to-back. We saw pre-NIL Villanova do 2 out of 3, but the way that the expectations have shifted maybe from like the post 2015 championship team to probably Zion's team of 2019. Like this is Final Four expectations again, like truly expectations again, not just Sweet 16. So I have this thought of like, it feels like we're building up to the next like 90s of Duke basketball here. You know, like Shire's gotten in. He's got to, a couple of big games, obviously a Final Four last year, much like Krzyzewski did in 86 and then in 89. So it feels like we could be entering into another Duke era here. Am I crazy in thinking that when they haven't won a title in 11 years now?
No, I think it's reasonable. And I do think, look, we all know this. Once you get deep into the tournament, there's an element of the tournament being a crapshoot. These aren't best of sevens. They're single elimination. But if you look at what he's doing, I mean, he tied the record last year for most wins in your first 3 seasons. He's on pace to shatter the record for most wins in your first 4 seasons. And it does feel like what he's doing is without precedent. And now they obviously have a chance to go win a national title again this season. And I do think this is the beginning of something, right? I mean, he's not even 40 years old yet and is at the top of the sport and has a penchant. I mean, I talked about Rachel Baker earlier with the GM spot and what he does in building his staff. He has a penchant for doing things and seeing things that are a few years out on the horizon before other people do, which to me is what gives you that kind of belief that this could be something special for a very long time. Obviously, it's already been pretty special over the last half century or so.
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah. And you made a great point earlier, too, about going outside the box real quick. Like, that's not something Duke does. It's not something those guys 8 miles down the road do. And that was kind of a bold move, and it's working out so far. Maybe that becomes a trend for Duke. Who knows? Maybe they join the rest of the country, those 2 schools. But that's been a stroke of genius so far.
No, for sure. And you have to give him a ton of credit. And maybe it'll get him some Coach of the Year honors. Duke hasn't had an ACC Coach of the Year since 2000. Just let that marinate.
Shows you where the expectations are.
It's wild, dude.
It's crazy.
Whoa. Oh, my gosh. All right. Well, David, man, thank you very much. Thanks for taking the time today. Thanks for giving me a shot all those years back. And I put your calls on, dude. When I'm in the car, that Sirius app is money for me. You can pick the game, and if I want to listen to Duke, I'll listen to Duke. And, no surprise, you hit it out of the park every time. So thanks a lot for taking the time and hitting it out of the park with us here today, man. We'll talk soon.
No, appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on.
All right, take it easy, David. David Shumate right there. Oh, man, that was awesome. And the guy is, I mean, there's a reason why at that young he takes over a job that big and has such great success with it. So very cool to chat with him. Cam, you got anything on the reaction? You pushed it a little bit there. I thought you were going to go for like a 4th question.
I know. I knew I was pushing it too, especially with how eloquently I put that 90s question, huh? That was
good.
eloquent
I
of
mean,
me.
no, it's a great point. And Cam, you always have some of the best
Like,
points.
I don't know. It's just this weird, like, so when I grew up rooting for Duke, like, they obviously, it's so weird to say because they did win a couple national championships before I graduated.
Dude, I'd be
high
lying
school,
if
You just muted your mic. You muted your mic. I think by accident.
Okay, my bad.
And so they were kind of in, like, most of the time I was rooting for them, though. They were always good. They were always in the rankings. In fact, they didn't leave the top 10 for like 9 years. But we just kind of knew what a national championship team and a Final Four team looked like. And most years they weren't that. They were just a Sweet 16 team that was pretty good and it would have NBA players. And it feels like this 2020s, even though it's still a lot of one and dones for a school like Duke, almost exclusively one and dones, it does feel like the expectation is no longer Sweet 16, Elite 8 have a good year. Like it is Final Four. This is multiple Final Fours. Like,
yeah, but that's interesting. That's honestly like, and I'm not saying it's fool's gold, but the security year after year is so elusive.
I was gonna say it's something close to fool's gold.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I mean,
unless you're Alabama football, like that's what makes those so special. Like you shouldn't go to the Final Four every year, even if you're Duke.
Yeah, it's just so interesting now.
Again.
It's so interesting now because you laid out a really interesting point. Like, we just talked yesterday, and I have a couple times with people in my life recently about, the Jay Wright and the Scott Drew blueprint, how that thing is just, you don't want to say it's in the trash can, but like, it certainly isn't really working right now for Scott, and it's not working for other high character coaches and high character programs around the country that rely on retention and a belief that's bigger than them to win games.
Program builders.
Yeah. Simple as that.
And like, and that sounds like, hey, that's what Scott Drew would have been in 2008. But no, Scott Drew's still that in 2026. Like he's a program builder. It takes years. Jay Wright was the same way. But like that's not a knock against a Dan Hurley or a John Shire, but those guys are probably better at putting together a talented team in 1 year that can get through the hurdles. And maybe that's what it is in college basketball these days.
I think it is. All right, Cam Stewart, let's take a break. We'll be back after this. We're presented by Slovacics. The Pete Sousa Show rolling on. We're getting into some television stuff. I'm going to have a quick chat about some groundbreaking news that hit our world yesterday. And a lot of people, including some of our own here at the Rogue Media Network, are going public with their dismay. We roll on after this. By the way, this Rogue Media Network personality getting national attention for his disdain of this move. We'll be back after this to talk about it.
Hey, it's Zach Gelb. We're talking NFL and college football. Plus, we have some of the biggest interviews in sports media. You got to check out the Zach Gelb Show right here on 365 Sports, weekdays, 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 to 3 p.m. Central. And make sure you subscribe to my channel, youtube.com/@ZachGelbShow.
Save big during the Start Something New sales event at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Waco. Drive a new Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with $13,000 off or choose 0% financing. Get a new Laramie Crew Cab 4-wheel drive with 3.9% financing for 72 months plus $15,000 off MSRP. Explore in a new Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo starting at $31,990. Happening now at Allen Samuels.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Hi, I'm Jo from Face Theory. You're going to want to have a specific goal for your skincare routine. What do you want to achieve? Active ingredients are really strong, and if you're using too many at once, your skin can get overwhelmed. Don't overspend on products. Choose products that have scientific research behind them. At Face Theory, if you're not happy with a product, just say so, just give us a shout and we'll give you your money back, no problem.
Streamline event and appointment booking with Amelia's sleek, modern, and fully customizable booking forms. Tailor the colors, fonts, and design to match your brand and seamlessly integrate with your WordPress website. Whether it's for events or appointments, Amelia makes booking simple, stylish, and perfectly aligned with your business. Enhance your booking experience today at WPAmelia.com. That's WPAMELIA.com. Amelia.
When you learn a language with Babbel, you start a journey that takes you further and further. Anytime and anywhere you wish. It's easy and fun. Broadens your horizons and keeps your brain fit. A journey into new thoughts, new cultures, new adventures. So what are you waiting for? Start your journey with Babbel now. Go to babbel.com or download the app.
If you want a Boston sports show that's going to insult you as a fan and only cares about getting back at their old hosts or who Bill Belichick is dating, then keep tuning your radio. But if you want a sports show that's wicked good, wicked smart, wicked passionate, then you need the Wicked Boston Show with me, Cam Stewart. It is the only Boston sports talk show that is by the fans and for the fans. One voice in this city where the only BS is Boston sports. The Wicked Boston Show.
BadCreditLoans.com is a pioneering service provider that has carved a reputation in the financial industry for its dedication to helping individuals with bad credit secure loans. By making timely repayments, borrowers can gradually repair their credit history, thereby increasing their chances of securing better loan terms in the future. BadCreditLoans.com serves as a beacon of hope for those with bad credit. Simple, fast, and reliable loan application process. And its commitment to responsible borrowing makes it a trusted partner in the journey towards financial stability.
As we are back to talk about Lake Waco Golf Club, a semi-private facility. It's nestled right along the north point of Lake Waco, one of the new facilities here in Texas to have a full, right? And one of the new and few, to have a full 18-hole regulation golf course as well as an executive 18-hole par 3 golf course. Plus, check out their bar and grill. You will find Cam ponying up to that bar, bellying up, whatever you want to say, however you want to phrase it. And they have a pro shop too. You got to check it out. But the bar, that's where Cam likes to hang when he's in town. And I love the pro shop because, you take somebody out, you golf against them. And, Bill Self says this, you don't bet cash, you bet apparel. So afterwards, you beat me, I buy you apparel. Pretty cool, right? They also have an executive 18-hole par 3 golf course. Please check out their bar. You got to do that though, right? Cam loves that bar. Also, we want you to go to their website. Check them out. LakeWacoGC.com. LakeWacoGC.com. Get more information. Get involved. It is February in Texas, and we've been playing golf for a month already. So lots of opportunities there. Hey, Stewie, we got a new sponsor. We'll do that tomorrow or Monday. We'll reveal them. We got another live read coming. Thanks to the good folks at Rogue Media Network. More specifically, Stephanie. Is it Beatty or Beatty?
I thought it was Beatty. I say it on the air as Beatty.
Beatty. I mean,
she always introduces as Steph, even on the air. So
yeah,
that's a good question.
Yeah, Steph is the best. So Steph's rocking and rolling. I got a great game we're going to play real quick, and it all happened by accident. Now, when
I usually like to have the games written down in writing before.
Well, it's just you can guess and play along. It won't take too long. So at this point, it's old news, right? St. John's got smacked. 40 points they scored against UConn and Hartford.
And no field goals in the last 17 minutes of the game. Was that it?
Yes. They did not see the ball go through the basket after the 17-minute mark of the second half. Just craziness.
Shot, yeah.
Almost like you flush it. Patino took full responsibility, whatever. But you could see the writing on the wall because this was a tweet I'd heard about. This is Patino tweeting. This is Wednesday morning. So they're in Hartford, okay? Just finished breakfast in Hartford with the team. 13 players and 5 coaches and a special priest, all looking at their phones. No conversing. Next discussion coming with my wonderful group. Smile. Right? So, by the way, like, even the priest is like, check. And Patino's calling him out.
It's
like,
I was thinking about this watching the game the other night when they had Patino mic'd up in a huddle. Like, he is the ultimate example of, I don't know what it was with the recruiting violations or a different job or whatever, or kind of starting back up in Europe, but he is just like the reformed psycho. You know what I mean? Like, he is still intense, but he is so much more mellow, like, from what he used to be. And again, that doesn't mean he doesn't have the passion anymore or that he's not a little bit psycho. But like, just the idea of him tweeting this out with a smiley face rather than throwing one of his players' phones across the room like he might have done in the 90s is kind of amusing for me.
Oh, dude, that is hilarious. That is so. The fact that he's smacking around the priest in that tweet
that's good.
is amazing. But then, Cam, so I called up.
He looked at the players and he's like, "Oh my God, like all this." And, Father, can you believe? He looks over and the priest is doing it too.
100%, dude.
That's got to be how it went, right?
I would believe yes. I think that probably triggered the tweet. Okay, but
if
here's
the priest is doing it, I gotta put it out there. Then going on my phone, by the way. Yeah.
So now we get to do the best part. It's not even a game, it's just a share. Exercise. Rick Patino has 124.3 thousand followers on Twitter. He follows 35 people. Okay. Now, who does Rick Patino follow? Right?
Jeez, man.
He follows Peyton Silva.
God, he just the things he said about Mark Pope when Mark Pope got the Kentucky job. I imagine he's got to be following him twice.
Well, he's actually following somebody twice. Somebody named Trilly Donovan, who I'm not familiar with.
That's hilarious. Trilly Donovan, like the parody account.
Yeah. Well, one is Trilly Donovan, college hoops boxer enthusiast, ubiquitous and mysterious burner account, back up to Trilly Donovan. So it's 2.
That's unbelievable. He follows Trilly and the backup.
Yeah, he follows 2 Billy Donovan burners. And then not specifically Billy Donovan, right? It's like a faux account. And then he follows St. John's. He follows Mick Cronin. He follows Joel Soriano, Dennis Jenkins. He follows
my man.
He can stop following. He can stop following New Mexico because Richard's out of there.
Yep.
So he can lose. We can tell Coach he can lose that. Then he follows Patrick Ewing, Mark Jackson. I don't know. Some of these people you will know. I don't know. Nick Cathalis. Let's see. Giannis. He follows Giannis. He follows Walter McCarthy. Paul Pierce. Wayne Turner, all of his Kentucky guys.
Paul Pierce, all right.
Ron Mercer,
yeah.
Larry
Celtic
O'Bannon, Dickie V, Joseph Lewis. We're almost done now, guys. Jamal Mashburn, David Novak, Terry Rozier, Donovan Mitchell, Bang Bang, George Dieng.
Has there been a bad player that he coached that he follows, or do you have to hit a certain point threshold to get the follow from your old coach?
He follows Arise Alliance Institute and his son Richard Patino.
Do you think Calipari's following Carmelo Travieso? Or do you have to be? You have to be like an All-American to get the follow from your coach. That is good, man. Or Giannis.
Billy, by the way, and this hits close to home. I'm just getting news now. Billy Gillespie is Tarleton State, according to Pete Thamel, is going to formally announce Billy is not going to return next year. They're expected to run a full national search for a new coach. Man, that was a lot of fun for a minute or two with Billy being there, and you felt like at some point maybe he was going to have a fun run to the tournament. But there's so much going on there.
Yeah, and I think he's got some health issues.
Yeah, he does.
So I do find that last sentence pretty funny, though.
Yeah,
Tarleton's going to go national on their search.
Come on, man.
Yeah, let's see if you can get Lucas from Duke. Coach
Dude,
at Tarleton.
You're a real prick.
I am.
Let them conduct their national search.
Who's Dan Hurley's guy? Can we get him down? Stephenville, Texas.
Stephenville is okay.
Stephenville's a what? Stephenville is a what? It's not a word you can say on terrestrial radio.
There's an HEB right next to the arena. I like that, and right next to the football stadium. So that's all I need. I'm a simple man. Okay. And the location's tough, right?
It's brutal.
How far are you from Dallas and Tarleton and Stephenville?
3 hours.
Yeah, you're like
you're 2 hours from Waco, and you're not near anything. Your nearest is probably an hour and a half the other direction in San Angelo. Like, we're not talking about Austin. Right. It's probably 2.5, 3 hours to Austin. Like, you're just
besides the fact that Waco is awesome. I'll just say that because I'm a Waco loyalist. And there's always you're 90 minutes from Austin and Dallas. Like, if you're so jammed up that you're losing your mind, get in the goddamn car. That's what I used to do when I had nothing going and I was a news anchor, and I would be like, it'd be a Saturday and I had like nothing going because I didn't really know anybody, whatever. I would just drive to Austin and like, it would be great. I mean, and honestly, if you speed a little bit, not like it's encouraged. I mean, I was with someone once and I tried living in Austin and commuting. And in dire straits, I could get to that goddamn station in like 75 minutes. So you're hauling ass, but and I would never recommend that. Billy is 66 years of age. Thanks, Scotty B, the Baylor King. And honestly, his sister Jerry, not friendly, she is my friend. Like, and I love Jerry. And I hope everything's okay with Billy. And I think maybe it might be good for him to step away. Who knows? So one more thing, a piece of news we wanted to hit today. Yesterday, I had heard scuttlebutt about this, just doing games for ESPN. And I actually heard from the horse's mouth, Fran Fraschilla, because I was watching one of Fran's games and he and I started to text and he told me, I'm not doing the semis. And look, it's not, I will just say this, dude. It's not easy figuring all this out for the executives at ESPN. And let me explain. You have your A crew, right? And I'm just going on when I wake up in the morning, and this is the difference this is why I got blown out by my significant other this morning. And it was 46-3 as I moped upstairs. If you missed the beginning of the show, you can listen to it. But, let's start from the beginning. It's hard to manage all of this, right? And simply stated, with certain partners, and this is not even close to a knock on ESPN, but with certain partners like the Big 12, and I talk about it on our Big 12 show, they brilliantly found a way to bring other partners in under the tent and get their games in more primetime spot on linear television to kind of get off of ESPN Plus, right? Oh, by the way, how about this? Kevin Fisher, a little plug. Women's Tennis Association is in Austin this week if you're around and looking for something to do. That's a great marriage, by the way. Austin and the WTA, sizzling. And then Stephenville is like an hour and a half from Fort Worth. Yeah.
I looked it up. Hour 46 to Dallas. So it was a little off, a little closer than we thought.
Yeah, Billy was a former Baylor assistant from 94 to 97. Look, man, the Billy Gillespie I remember was the guy who was just, he was a wonder in the coaching business. Like, he got that Kentucky job very young, obviously didn't go well. And then he got like a couple get out of jail frees. He goes right to Tech and it just doesn't work there. And, not literal get out of jail free, but he did get out of jail and then dealt with whatever he was dealing with. And, I hope he pulls out. Not that anything's wrong, but I hope it all works out for him, because he's one of the all-time characters. I had one of their games earlier this year. And he's just one of the all-time characters in coaching. So back to what we were talking about. The executives at ESPN have a hard job because they lost some of that inventory. And it's not a knock on ESPN at all. It's just like, how many places can you be at once? That's really what it is. As we move more towards a digital medium, in life, really, okay, like you're watching this show right now, either on Twitter or YouTube, or you're listening to it later in the day, wherever you get your podcasts, right? But going in that direction, it's understandable. But a guy like Brett Yormark was like, hey, wait a minute. Like, we got to get these games on television. Like, I want, Terry Souza, who's flipping around the channels on a Saturday to who likes basketball but is 75, 80 years old, maybe she'll find a Big 12 game on Fox and stop right there. Like that's primetime real estate. Maybe she'll flip up to FX1. It's right there. Maybe she's watching Dateline on Peacock and she sees this amazing graphic and the way that they're marketing these games. I know that's not linear, but you get my point. So there's been less real estate to go around for a lot of these primetime, big-time ESPN analysts. And it also coincides with, flat out, hands down, Big 12 is the best basketball conference in the country, okay? So what do you do if you're ESPN? Well, you're sure as hell going to send your college game day squad to Kansas City for the Big 12 game. Well, right away, then you've got a bit of an issue because that is an ESPN game. So then you're definitely putting Showman and Billis on that. I'm sorry. That's just how it's going. And, that decision, and I think it was, I'm not even going to pretend like I know the ins and outs of this. I've heard scuttlebutt, I'm an employee. We hear stuff. The only thing that I come out of any of these conversations thinking is that the executives running this stuff have a lot on their plate. And that's not me being a kiss ass or whatever. Like, it is a tough go at it right now. On lower levels, like analysts who are my level of play-by-play per se, there's a lot of guys and play-by-play guys too. Like, I consider myself very fortunate and I'm so grateful that I've been as busy as I am this year because the inventory being cut into a little bit by conferences like the Big 12, signing deals with so many other media rights partners, that like you're going to run up against stuff like this. And two things can be true at once. It can be really hard for people to fix this out. Three things can be true at once. You can be excited that Jay Billis and Dan Shulman are going to be on the call. And you can also be upset that you're not going to hear the familiar sounds that you've heard so many times on Big Monday from John Shambi and Fran Fraschilla. Look, it's something that jumps out at me, and we're going to have Fran on this show. I think it's next Wednesday before he's doing Baylor and Houston. Visser just sent me a note. Yeah, look at this. Visser, you remember when Visser goes all caps? You better, it means something. Yeah, and honestly, I'm not going to ask Fran about this and get into a whole thing. That just is not what we're trying to accomplish here on the show. But I try to bring a thread of understanding.
Can I ask you this, Pete? Can I
ask me whatever you want?
I know don't want to put too much on your network here, but like looking at it from the fan standpoint, I think this is the big one. Like, we Big 12 fans get Fran Fraschilla all year. And like, there's no one outside of Pete Souza that knows this conference quite like Fran Fraschilla. And I know some people think he's annoying because some people think every announcer's annoying. But I think Fran is a delight. I think he's great on the broadcast, and he legitimately knows these teams inside and out. Like, Shulman and Billis are both great, and I know they're pros and they're going to be ready for this game. But do you understand that, like, from the fan standpoint of like, these are our guys. These are the guys that brought us here. We like them, and
of course, but I think we overplay our concern in that regard. Like,
sure.
Like, no, truly, like, Fran is amazing. And Fran, he brings so much Big 12 knowledge and experience too. I mean, look, I'll tell you, Fran's been at ESPN for a very long time now, to the point where
easy to forget.
If you want to go back and see, and this is something I'm going to remember to ask him about, because I've never asked him about it, either personally or on a show like this. What the hell was going through his mind when Bobby Knight jumped him? Fran was interviewing both Steve Alford and Bobby Knight, and Fran was asking some totally normal questions, and Bobby jumps Fran, like, in the interview. And, that was 2000, maybe, around that time. Like, that's when they were, I think, right? That's when Alford was at Iowa and Knight was at Indiana. And, like, that's how long Fran has been at this. And primarily his focus shifted to the Big 12, not long after that interview. I think he may have had one more coaching job, by the way, in between all that. But the point I'm trying to make is, like, yeah, Fran's been along this Big 12 ride for us decades. At the same time, like, Jay Billis is one of the most amazing basketball analysts on the planet. And I can promise you, Jay Billis is very, very in tune and dialed into what is happening within the Big 12. So I don't think it's like a come down. And I think it's a familiarity bias that we all have that will kind of people are going to have to work through. And I understand it. It's kind of a bummer. Look, one of my main guys is not. I can tell you I don't want to say anything. I'm not going to say anything. But there's there'll be some absences at that tournament of familiar faces who by no means are going down the ranks. They're only going up. So like this situation, I wouldn't anybody as a fan let this, I don't know. It's not like writing on the wall or whatever. Everybody settle down and enjoy it. But one of our guys in-house, Cam, well, he's got an issue with this. And so this morning I see an article from Awful Announcing and I'm like, like I'm reading the article and then I'll read it for you if it's tough to see. So it says many fans, oh, you can't move it back because this is me. It says many fans are saying or expressing their displeasure with this move. And then here it is. Matt Mosley, dumb. That's it. And Mosley's dumb gets picked up by Awful Announcing. Now, let's be very clear. Matt Mosley is not a fan. Matt Mosley is a pundit. Matt Mosley sits on top of tens of thousands of Twitter followers. Like, for Awful Announcing to just lump him in as Joe Sixpack, I think is wrong. And I love Awful Announcing. The one mistake I made in my career where I got over my skis trying to tell a story about foster care, the guy who wrote an article about it totally understood where I was coming from. And he was like, it was Pete Sousa's well-intentioned comment, goes awfully wrong, and so that was kind of them. And I appreciated that very much. So they took the time to understand the context of it because I got this great history with foster kids and trying to get them adopted and all that stuff. So they did a little bit of research and figured out I wasn't on the air like a prick in front of foster kids. It's a whole nother story. I'm so what kind of asshole would I have been if I was on ESPN? Let me start taking shots at foster kids. And I listened to it again the other day, by the way. It was not bad at all. I was like, I can't believe let's move on. But Awful Announcing was they understood kind of what I was trying to say. So Cam, let me bring you up here. This is a great question. And we may have to ask him in person. Should Mosley be offended that he is lumped, honest to God, Matt Mosley, former Dallas Cowboys beat writer.
Got the blue check mark.
Blue check. I think he's got 60,000 followers on Twitter. Still a Cowboys beat guy. Covered the NFL for ESPN for many years. Traveled all around the country. Columnist, Dallas Morning News, radio host in Dallas. Should Mosley be offended?
If he should be or not, I think Mosley will be offended. I think he will be a little offended by this. I'm gonna go with the way that you kind of just took the Awful Announcing story that was about you. I'm gonna say that they probably didn't. They should have just used a different word, fans.
But they said fans, which is the best
people
part.
Of X should be or are getting upset here, and yeah, they did use the word fans. And if I had to guess, I'm guessing this is some intern, someone wrote the story and some intern, they were like, go find some tweets that are, go look at the quote tweets and find some people that are pissed off about this. And they just put that Matt Mosley one below. Should he be offended? No.
And
Mosley's a long time soldier in this industry, man, a titan of the industry.
And he is and one of the reasons he was such a great beat writer, and he's a really good reporter when he wants to be, is he's not afraid to stick his nose in it. He's got a chip on his shoulder too. So he could see that. Ultimately, Matt Mosley's not going to make any kind of deal about that. But it could have hurt his
say
feelings.
that.
You think he might?
Oh, I think he'll talk about it today.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be light, but I think he'll talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't care.
And he'll treat it well. He'll be like, apparently I'm just a fan now.
He's a number one fan. He's the number one fan.
We had Fran on this program recently.
Yeah. Hey, Fran will probably read that.
And the next time he has Fran on, after us, of course, he'll say Fran, your biggest fan here. Happy to have you back on the show. Like, he'll do something like that. I'll bet he would. He'll play it well.
I got one more for you. I need your
All
honest opinion. All right.
All right.
What do you think of these? They're awful. They're too small, right?
Well, I think the awful part, which is something you can't control,
The
is that
glare?
the lighting bounces back, right? Yeah. But I don't think, like, in and of itself, they're
Maybe they're
bad,
not
Pete.
horrible. Okay, maybe I'll wear them. I don't know.
You kind of look like a Charles Truett button-up shirt model when you wear that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
we
that's
want
nice of you to
someone who still looks good, but also a little refined, maybe a touch of gray in there. That's the kind of guy we want buying this shirt, you know?
King liked them.
Tall, slender. That's what I'm getting, Pete.
King, what's this, Cam?
I wanted to give you this note.
All right, hold on.
All right.
But
We
King
can't put
did like them. All right, well, give me the
Okay.
note before we leave. King McClure liked
All
them.
right. So I had this because we were talking Duke, so it was kind of related to Duke. I saw this morning. It was the 2001 high school All-American teams. And this first team, Ray Felton, who you remember, I mean, long time in the NBA,
Raymond.
not like a stud,
Raymond.
Raymond Felton. Yeah.
Okay, just because
But-
he's a Carolina guy, you got to butcher his
I
name. It's
do,
Raymond
yep.
Felton, dude.
Yep.
I worked with
Yep.
him in Charlotte for like 5 years. I love
I didn't
that
know
guy.
that.
Yeah,
didn't
he
know
was
that.
one of my he was a guy that I would consider friend. We were friendly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Raymond Felton was on this
Yeah.
team. And, obviously terrific college player, even though he did play at that school. Then you have Carmelo Anthony, Amare Stoudemire, LeBron James.
So you got. By the way, you've just rattled off 2 rookies of the year, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think Carmelo beat LeBron Rookie of the Year. I could
I
be
think
wrong.
that's
Go ahead.
correct. I think
Yeah.
that's correct. 2 Hall of Famers. And the 5th guy to round it out, basketball legacy. He played at Duke. He was an all-ACC player at Duke, but it would probably be like your 15th guess on who would be the all-ACC player from Duke that was the last one in this All-American team. Do you want to take a shot at it?
Eric Meek. No, that's way too early. That's way too early.
Yeah.
All right, let me knock
But
that off.
It's not.
But
At least the other line of thinking was
Cherokee
there.
Parks.
Still too early. Cherokee played on the 94 team.
Yeah. Okay. So 2000.
So we would have played at Duke. Think of like 05.
Oh, I got it.
06.
I got it.
You got it.
Shav Randolph.
Shav Randolph is the
Boom!
correct answer, baby. See how much of this we can see here. You can get a little bit of the third team. Third team, which you can't see unless I totally take this out. Yeah, we got a guy from Massachusetts, Tabor Academy.
Chris Paul's. No, that's Chris
Jordan
Paul.
Francis. Yeah, but look at this. You also got Bosch. You got Sebastian Telfair, top pick. Sheldon Williams, All-American at Duke, has his number retired at Duke. Rashad McCants, talk about a Carolina guy who can't take a test. That's your dude right there. My personal favorite college basketball player of all time, right above him, JJ Redick. And Sean Godfrey, another Dookie.
I got it. So Rashad, anybody that's been around that guy has like a Rashad story. He was called Richard Walker, a Gaston Gazette writer from North Carolina. He told me that his name was Crazy Rashad. That's what everybody called him. When I was working for USA Basketball, as like a PR intern, and I was in New Jersey with this qualifying team. It was like him, Sean May, Adam Morrison, him being Rashad McCants, Charlie Villanueva. There were a lot of real good players on this team. And we took him to a dinner. And Joni Taylor's husband, the big time, I think she's with Texas A&M or Georgia as a basketball coach, was Darius Taylor. Darius was awesome, but he was no nonsense. He worked for USA Basketball. He played in Michigan. I think he's the Atlanta Dreams general manager. At least he was. So Rashad's like orders 2 entrees, right? It's like, come on. And so Darius is at the head of the table and he's like, hey, and this is as I remember it. Hey, you can't order 2 entrees. Like, stop ordering 2 entrees. Like, there's plenty of food. We were at like a Fridays, something like that. Or it was a Houlihan's. Actually, it was. And McCants is like, so what if we don't get 2 entrees? Like, I want to leave if we can't have 2 entrees. And Darius is like, then leave, dude. And he's like, all right, I'm leaving. And he gets up and he leaves. And I'm within an earshot of Sean May. And Sean May says, now this is before they had won a title, right? Sean May said, that's why we haven't won our title. Like something like that was said. Like it was very clear that that guy was not popular at all. And I have talked to other North Carolina's guys since that like, man, he is not like a fan favorite. And apparently but apparently he's doing okay because he's on Gil Arenas' show and, he's making some money doing that.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's interesting because it's probably, like I know college players weren't getting millions of dollars back then, but how many times had Rashad McCants been told no, like just leave from the time he was probably 12 years old to that moment right there when everyone knew he was a transcendent basketball player, probably had not been told no a lot after that. But that is interesting. I'm glad that I threw a slight at somebody and it wasn't somebody that you had worked with and knew and had a great story about. Well, you
I was
a
on
great story, but.
the USA basketball thing. What an amazing experience! Right before that summer, I traveled with that team. I didn't travel with them because they went overseas. I stayed stateside with them. We went to this thing called the Hoop Summit, and Sebastian Telfair was on that team. Dwight Howard was supposed to be on the team. He backed out at the last minute. But there was Malik Hairston. Big Al
Jefferson?
Big Al Jefferson. Yeah.
When I was first getting into the Celtics, that would be the only non-Paul Pierce jersey you would see. Is a Big Al Jefferson.
Big Al was awesome.
One in every 10 or 15 Celtics fans at the game would have an Al Jefferson one on.
Big Al managing his weight was an issue all the way back from when he was like in high school. Like I can remember he was
that was a beloved guy.
Yeah. Dude,
all the stories about him, everyone loves him.
Charlotte sucked so bad. He actually took them to the playoffs. And the radio guy for Charlotte, Scott Lauer, friend of ours, we got to have him back on the show. He played poker with Al. Al was like, hey, I think you're a really good poker player. How about during summer league, I'll stake you like a couple $1,000 and you can go play poker. Maybe you can win.
Damn.
That's the kind of guy. Yeah. Yeah.
Damn.
Scott lost. And obviously so did Al. All right. The Pete Sousa Show will be back. Panthers rebuild this season, right? Thanks everybody for joining. I think they will do a lot better. Hey, who are we talking about with the Panthers here? Boof.
LJ Boof, man. That dude loves throwing non sequiturs right into the comment section.
Really? Are you familiar with him?
Loves it. He's a listener.
Who are the Panthers?
And LJ Boof.
Are these your guys?
Yes.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming over. All right. We'll be back on Monday. We have amazing. We got the number one bracketologist in all the country, right? We're going to break that down for you. We have an amazing week next week. And Chris Visser put together an amazing week this week. I mean, if you want to see some of these interviews, please go to Sousa Show page. If you like what you see, click subscribe. It would mean the world to me. The Pete Sousa Show will be back on Monday. Talking college hoops. We got Fran on Wednesday. A couple other big guests who are escaping me right now, but they won't escape us next week. We will see you next Monday. Great weekend.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at 70 miles an hour. I was injured, had a concussion. The insurance company, they delayed. They were playing games from the initial conversation. They weren't going to help me. The biggest thing I learned through this is that you can't go through this alone. I called Daniel Stark. They were going to help me and everything was going to be all right. Daniel Stark got me 10 times the insurance company offered.
The difference is stark.
Nalgene Outdoor has been your trusted companion, fueling adventures and helping protect the planet. We're committed to reducing waste, improving access to clean water, and providing simple, safe, and sustainable products for you and your family. NALGENE.com.
Our professional professionals are not only experts in managing urgent concerns, but also in providing top-notch preventative health care. We're proud to connect pet owners to a vast network of licensed veterinary professionals, ready to address any immediate concerns. Book your first appointment today.
Sports.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.